Yeah, I heard there's like a complete Verizon outage as of late. People were complaining about it yesterday. I don't know if we were impacted or not, but it's definitely slowed our internet speeds down here at the office. So,
Yeah,
I don't know. Country living, right?
country living, and then other things.
Yeah. Hey, got a question for you.
Yeah.
How does a leopard change its spots?
Ooh, can I answer with the noun? Because I know now.
Go ahead. Let's hear
it. Oh no.
It moves. It just moves to another spot.
Yeah. Has it changed its spots? Oh my gosh. I knew that.
That's
I'm
how
like,
it changes its
blanking?
spots.
Yeah, it changed my spot.
Just like I'm going to get up and walk out of here.
I haven't had enough coffee yet.
Oh, yeah. Hey guys, Aaron Cochran by Tennessee Dirt Team Lead. I am here with Kerri Nasser, and we are going to talk about moving, discomforts, and why people move. We're going to talk about forever homes and why you might think that your next home is your forever home, but it might not be, and why people move. So, welcome, Kerri.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here again today. Kerri's an agent here on our team out of our Murfreesboro office, and you're going to see probably some more of her as we get our studio expansion set up in Murfreesboro at the local KW office there, and we're going to get rocking and rolling. So, Kerri, tell me a little bit about you've moved, we've moved, everybody's moved.
Yeah.
Sounds like an upcoming song for my kids to be singing on Bluey or something.
I've moved.
I've moved. You've moved. We've moved. We've all moved. Anyway, why did you move? What was your discomfort? Why did you and your family relocate to your current Murfreesboro home?
So that had to do with my husband's job. He had been with this company for 7.5 years or more, and there was a certain trajectory that they had set him up with, and that he had agreed to be in and all that stuff. And then they just said basically, well, this is not an option anymore.
Yeah.
And so it was a discomfort in where he was going and him being able to use his degree and just his goals with that. And it did impact our personal life as well because of all that. So he ended up having another company reach out to him, said, hey, we've got this opportunity. Here's 2 different locations you have a choice to move to. We chose here. So that's where we came in.
So your discomfort was opportunity or lack thereof. And so you guys moved to be closer to better opportunities. And
yeah.
Yeah, that's a very popular one. Everybody's always looking for, especially in today's society. Granted, your husband was at his last job for a considerable amount of time, but a lot of people move jobs. A lot of people move jobs frequently, unfortunately. So it's not the age of that our parents were in where they stayed in a job, but there's more opportunities available. And I think it's because we're made aware of more opportunities because of how information travels nowadays. And we're more of a now society because we get to see a job opening in Tennessee versus Idaho and go, oh gosh, look at that. I didn't know that,
Yeah.
So
an interesting thing too is even with the jobs, so it's not even so much that people are necessarily choosing, but even companies, their models are, we want you to move around.
Yeah.
And that's something that we're seeing more and more of, that is that even if you're in that same company, they want you to, and you're doing the job you were hired for, you're doing great. They'll be like, hey, we have this thing where every 2 years we transition you to a different team, a different, roles. There's different strategies.
Yeah.
And all of that plays into it. So, yeah.
Do you think that the ability to work remote and technologies and things like that, as long as the Verizon internet's working, don't ask me today. Do you think that's going to change how often people move because it's not necessarily a brick and mortar situation anymore?
I think that to some degree it depends on the company. So I've seen where I actually was fortunate that prior to being a realtor, I got to work remote and experience that way back in 2016 is when it started. So I saw the value of it then, and they saw the value of it, and having that flexibility. Hey, weather's bad, I'm gonna stay home and work, things like that. So I think there are some companies that see that value and that their work model, the type of work they do, they still see that. But I think there's other companies that are really trying to bring back people into the office environment. And so
do you think that's a control thing?
I think part of it is, I think also it has to do with the type of work cultural dynamic they're trying to maintain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and sometimes um, that really, I don't know if it really makes a difference in how effective the people are working, but I think that it has more to do with, yeah, they're trying to control the work
Yeah.
environment, conditions and things like that. So,
Yeah. That makes
mhm,
sense.
yeah.
Other things, people retiring is another discomfort. Um, they they don't see themselves in the home that they're in because that home was a different part of their life. So,
Mhm,
um, big thing, having a baby, getting
mhm,
married, having to take care of a family member, retiring, job changes, new opportunities.
mhm.
There's so many reasons that will impact our lives. So, what are some things that you think that would, some things that you can look into that would allow your home to be more versatile for some of those smaller discomforts, things like that?
So, are you talking about for a specific demographic of somebody, like in a retirement
No,
situation, or
just
just
like,
in
okay, well,
general?
if we know that we're moving and we're in our 40s
Yeah.
and we go, I mean, that hit home. Gosh, I felt it. Did you? You felt it. Yeah. Oh gosh, here's
Yeah,
40.
I know,
Couple more
right?
months. Couple more months. I'm not there yet. Um, but
I'm not there yet either.
yeah, you're in your 40s and you're making a move and I go, okay, well, what am I going to think about? Like,
Yeah.
I've got kids in the home. Your kids are going to be graduating and in the near future, let's say, in the next 8 to 10 years, maybe.
Mhm,
And, how can you not overbuy a home, but not underbuy a home, but make sure that you don't have to go through this again because homes aren't getting cheaper.
mhm.
So how do you avoid that?
Yeah, so that's an excellent perspective too, because, um, when you really think about your you have to really, I would say, start out with a list. Okay, so start
Mhm.
out with a list of like what is working for you, what isn't working for you, what things are changing from what
Current
they
needs,
were.
future needs type stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so if you're feeling a discomfort, sometimes you don't even know what that discomfort is
Yeah.
until
Oh,
you,
that's all too often. Yeah, I would
all
agree
too
with
often.
that.
So, and you're kind of like, I have an idea of what it is, but you can't make a successful move without really understanding what need you have to fix that discomfort.
Yeah.
And so, breaking it down, like writing a list of like of things like that, I think is really helpful and powerful because it helps you focus on what is and where you're trying to go
Hmm.
and what you need. So you'll identify that. So once you've done that, you'll identify things like about your neighborhood that you want to be in, that's going to be good for you moving forward in the future, the kind of activities that you are going to be taking part of. And there's so many different dynamics within that. And it's really, I was mentioning that in an earlier conversation that one of my clients, they're out of town, and when they came into town to visit, they were driving around looking at the neighborhoods because that was important to them, and they're in that retirement stage. So they're trying to, they want a one-story home, but they want an extra room to be able to have family come over and visit. Those things are great.
Yeah.
The really good, important things. But then I took it a step further. I asked him, hey, what kind of things do you do for fun? What do you do to get, you're in retirement, so you're in this different mindset of your life, a different stage.
Yeah. Are
What
we
is
a
it?
front porch rocking, sweet tea drinking
Right.
retirement, or are we mountain biking and fishing and
Yeah.
you
And
know?
and for them, they were a little bit different. One loves to be outside in the woods and, and out on the lake and everything, and the other one likes to go to restaurants and live music and things like that. So that really is very informational because you can't just be like, "Oh, well, my spouse really enjoys doing this," and move according to only that, because you could make the overcompensations, is what I like to think of it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think of it as a mistake necessarily, as overcompensation, because when you're moving a couple, especially, you got to think about what's going to be, how are we going to live, both of us,
Yeah. I
in
can see
this
why they're
way.
moving to Tennessee.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
restaurants change daily.
Oh,
And at the blink of an eye, you can get lost in the woods.
Yes, exactly. And and the scenery around the lakes, man, it's pretty
Mhm.
awesome. And you can have some of those where you have some scenery where there's like a couple of uh, closer to the Nashville area, you can see some lakefront little restaurants, things like that,
Yeah.
and you see a lot of roadhouses, and you have go out further, and you have ones that are more remote feeling. It's gorgeous. It's great.
Do you ever come across discomforts that shouldn't be discomforts? I
Hmm.
call it my trampoline theory. So I have to have a yard. I have to have a yard that we can put a trampoline. I really
Okay.
want to move this trampoline across country.
Hmm.
Um, a trampoline. My kids always wanted to have a trampoline. Your son's 13. The trampoline's going to be there for 2 years.
Mm.
Why is it that? It's and he's going to bounce on it for a couple of weeks until he burns out. We know what I'm talking about.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's. Do you ever come across people that make those discomforts that shouldn't be there? Like, hey, I
Oh,
have to have X in my next home. Like, I need to
yeah.
have um, I need to have RV parking. Do you own an
Hmm.
RV? No, but I'd like the option to own one day.
Yeah.
Perfect. How big of an RV do you need? Spot do you need? I don't know. Like,
Right.
they haven't done the research, but they're making it discomfort because that's going to rule out so many homes. Like, no, I have to have 3 full bathrooms. Well, why do you need 3 full bathrooms?
Right.
Like, explain that to me.
Hmm. Yep.
And, could they get away with 2.5? And some
Hmm.
people just put their foot down when it comes to stuff.
Yeah.
So it's just trying to make sure that people understand, what is a true discomfort and what is a true need versus,
Right.
what that
S-
is. Like, I need another full bathroom when my Aunt Edna comes and visits.
Right.
She's 93, John. I hate to say it, but I'm pretty sure she can use the guest bathroom
Yeah.
while she's visiting for the 1 time, 2 times that she might come see you. Or is she
Yes.
living there permanently?
Yeah. So that's a very good point because, oh man, one of the things I come across is those kind of things. It's like, okay, well, that's great that you want to accommodate these certain conditions and situations and things like that, but you have to look at the reality of um, frequency, volume of frequency that's
Yeah.
going to occur.
And how long you're going to need that.
Yes. And then you have to be able to be like, well, is having this or fitting this piece in here that's going to happen maybe once a year,
Yeah.
for a week
Oh, I
long,
need a huge outdoor kitchen.
right.
Why? Well, because I have a 4th of July party every year. That's it.
Yeah. So see, so there's things like that that you have to really think of. Like, I like to think of this thing, and I've been trying to do this more and more, even in my own life, because it's such an important thing. Is go down. I call it going to the basics, and that means, and it doesn't mean you're basic. It means what it means is what are my core needs to actually function and thrive,
Right.
and focus on that, because a lot of these other things, the peripheral stuff, so to speak, can be dealt with on a case by case basis. Or, like for example, if you want an outdoor kitchen but you don't find any homes, that's a really rare find. But does the space have the ability to accommodate one later on?
This is your want to have versus
Right.
have to have list.
Yes, exactly. And another thing is too, when some people are like, oh, well, they're looking at a home and a property and it's a great fit for them. Like it's everything. It marks everything off the list, but there's certain cosmetic things that they would change. Okay, that's great. That's cosmetic, and
Mm-hmm.
that can go with change as you go with life. It doesn't have to be immediate.
Well, and think of cosmetics too. Is there's different level of cosmetics.
Yeah.
There's a difference between I hate the paint versus
Mm-hmm.
I hate the countertops.
Yep.
The countertops I might not. That's a heavy lift.
Mm-hmm.
No pun intended. It's a big project. Like, that's going to disturb your life for a minute.
Right.
And it's not cheap versus, can I repaint the baby room because I don't have a kid anymore and it's
Right.
pink? You know?
Well, and the other thing is too, you have to think about what are you capable and willing to take on in a project when you think about that. Because the other thing is too, is sometimes a lot of people don't like a wall between the kitchen and the living room. And
Or what about the, oh my gosh, I'd love to buy a 1900s farmhouse on
oh
some
yeah,
acreage.
Yes.
Yeah, have you ever done a construction project? Have you ever lived through one? Do you have any idea what it costs? Do you know what we're going to find in a 1900s home?
The
They're
mental
fun.
emotional load capacity you have to have, and I call it resiliency.
No,
You
it will test the marriage. I'll tell you that.
It will. It will. You want to really put a marriage through a test, go through a remodel, a massive remodel.
Yeah.
So, and it's so true. But that's just it, though. You also have to have that fine line between what's too much and what is, hey, this space, and really the overall layout of the home we really like. It's just these things we want to change. Well, think about it this way: is it something that you would rather try and find something that cosmetically already has that fix and then give up this opportunity for the space outside that you want to enjoy more? Like this fitting this other need that's really important to you.
Yeah.
So you have to think about that balance and make that decision. And I think that's that's a lot of wisdom in
Well, and
going
we
through
don't
that.
say these things to try to discourage our clients from,
No.
finding the perfect dream home. But we want them to understand what's the difference between a want and a need.
Mm-hmm.
And you could need a third bedroom, a third bathroom, third full bath, or whatever you want. You could need a
Mm-hmm.
shop space, or you could want a shop space, or maybe there's room for a shop. Maybe you're willing to do that. The reason we ask these questions is because the more needs we have versus wants, it could rule out a ton of properties that you wouldn't have otherwise looked at.
Mm-hmm.
If you tell me that, hey, I'm not willing to look at homes that are under 2,000 square feet, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we're taking that for face value and going, I'm going to put into my search parameters 2,000 square feet, but the home that's 1,965 square feet, you're
Mm-hmm.
not going to see because you put your foot down saying that I have to have 2,000 square feet.
Right.
So that's why I always try, or a budget. Hey, I'm willing to go up to X number of dollars. I always try to
Mm-hmm.
get clients to go, well, let's go. Ideally, I'd like to find a home that fits most of my needs in this price range.
Mm-hmm.
And if I find everything I need, I'm willing to go up to here.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can look at a wider spectrum of homes so that we can make those homes fit your
Mm-hmm.
needs better. So that's why
Yeah.
we talk about you can't buy Tennessee dirt. I mean, you get the dirt has to work.
Yes.
And if you don't find the right neighborhood, you don't find the right piece of land, if it's not geographically located, you can't change that. You can't pick it up and move it.
Right. You could
So
find the
start
perfect
there.
home in the wrong space.
Oh, I've seen
And
it so often.
oh yeah. And if you find the home that's near perfect,
Mm-hmm.
in the right space, that's when you have to wear that value of, hey, can we make these changes to the home later? Is that feasible?
Right.
That's where that value is going to skyrocket completely different. And and there for some people who really have that hard budget, that's okay because that you have to recognize that's the space that you're in right then, with your needs, and you have to be real with yourself of what you're
Yeah.
going to expect. But that doesn't mean that there's a I like to think of that in real estate there's a level of fluidity. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? And so
Flexible clients always get more than what they want. When you finally
yes.
break the walls down and you tell me, hey, this is what I have to have, but I would love to find X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
90% of the time, we find 90%, if not all of the wants in addition to, because all of a
Hmm.
sudden we quit trying to micromanage every detail and we just let it come to us. Hey,
Hmm.
this has everything. And oh, by the way, it has that outbuilding and those extra spaces that you'd like to have.
Yeah.
You had a recent client um, that's come through some discovery as well. And it's a way that I like to guide a lot of my clients. Um, and we'll talk about, hey, I'd like to find a fixer upper. And let's say I've got a
Hmm.
$250,000 budget for the initial home, and I'm willing to put in another, I don't know, $150,000 into it.
Hmm.
So I always talk to clients and I go, well, why do you want to do that? Well, we just want to make sure that the home is ours and it has everything that we need it to do.
Hmm.
Perfect. So while we're out here looking at dumps, I hate to say it, while we're looking at bad homes, almost uninhabitable,
Yeah.
why don't we also look at $400,000 homes and just see if we can find you one that you don't have to go all through the trials and tribulations in order to accomplish what you want? Because it could
Yeah.
already be sitting here.
Yeah, and that's such a true thing because it's like, hey, they've got this mindset of how they can envision this whole setup working, the one that they're looking at. Because a lot of times those clients, they'll come to me with, hey, I want to look at this home. It's like, okay, great, let's go take a look at it. But let's get a little bit of understanding why this is interesting to you,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And that starts up that fantastic conversation of really digging deeper. And I have come across where it's like we go to that point where it's like, okay, this I'm going to uplift and support you in your goals.
Yeah.
And, and I'm just laying the facts out right here for you as far as what you have, as far as your options, what's going on here, so that they can, it's kind of, I like it, visualize it as, they're like, hey, I like this. I'm okay. Well, here's everything about they can come around
Mm-hmm.
within that so that they can see the whole picture. Right. And that is especially as and boys, a lot of times they'll have questions that come up is like, I didn't think about that. That's a great perspective to look into regarding this.
Yeah.
So they'll teach me too. And then going into that, as they go through, then they're starting to realize the calculations of what is good for them, what they have capacity for, what's financially more feasible. And then as people start to go through that, especially the fixing up homes, they'll
Mm-hmm.
see that they'll be like, okay, we're going to do this, and you can see the resilience there. Like uh, the capacity for pushing through it, but then you can still see their anxiety rise because it's a lot more than what they originally wanted to hold on to, what they
Right.
wanted to take on, and then they see this other opportunity that it gets them thinking differently about the home and how it needs to actually be because they're starting to learn about themselves. So I don't see it as a failed endeavor for them really looking into that thing. It's rather they've discovered something very important about themselves. And I'm just grateful they're discovering it at a certain point where they can start looking at this other avenue that is more, really can help set them up for success with the
Right.
next phases that they know are coming.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So it's just all about being open and making sure that you understand what's your discomfort and why you're moving. We've talked in the past about some people move. I've come across some people because they just want a better school system for their kids.
mhm,
Um, that statement can mean so many things. It could
right.
mean I want a better education for my kids. I'd like a
Mhm,
school that has more community and involvement.
mhm,
Um, it can also mean my kids being bullied where they're going to school right now. I
mhm,
want a different environment. I want a reset for them. I want different opportunities. I want different sports programs. Like you have to ask those questions and get deeper into it so that we can find out what the true meanings are. When you say a better school,
right,
like, what do you want? Like, I want a better kitchen. It's almost the same statement. Like, well, what would make it better for you? What aspects is it lacking? What things would you want to be there?
right.
All those different things. So,
And family actually can make a big decision part because when they're thinking of better school, maybe they're thinking of a better support system for
no,
their
that's
schooling
exactly
process.
where I was going to go next.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's
So
we
you've
don't
got
have a huge support system. Cassandra and I here, it's and what so many of us don't have it.
right,
So having that support system and being closer to family could be a thing, but it could also not be a thing.
right.
And
Yeah.
just realizing, it's when I say we don't have a support system, well, Cassandra and I, it's hard for us to ask for help, and
Mhm,
sometimes we just, hey, can you hang out with my girls for a little bit so that we can breathe, or we have to do X, Y, and Z, and it would be way easier if they weren't on our hip. So
mhm.
yeah, no, it's support systems huge.
You mentioned something that's such a true thing. Those who end up taking the initiative, and it does take courage and bravery to go away from their family or
Mm-hmm.
areas that they're familiar with, I wonder how often they typically have a hard time asking for help
Oh,
because you
it's
have to have a level of independence and self-starter, to be able to even get down that. It's not very
mm-hmm.
common. You see somebody who's very um I wouldn't say like dependent, but like, hey, I really need this support, that's going to be willing to jump into another state far
Yeah,
away from the support that's valuable to them.
100%.
So
100%. So
so
I
this is your
guess,
reminder, it's okay to ask for help.
yes. So I guess our biggest takeaways are get in deeper. Don't just take it for face value that I need X number of bedrooms, X number of bathrooms, certain square footage. Like, what are the reasons and the wants, things like that. I have a client that's moving recently, and she literally, it's not a square footage issue. She just needs, she doesn't want to buy a new bed, and she loves her bed. She has this giant log bed. You know what I'm talking about? Like, and she's in love with it. And I don't blame her. It's a gorgeous bed. But she's moving from Knoxville, and she's got to find a bedroom that fits it. She has big, chunky furniture, and she doesn't want to buy new furniture. And that's why she wants X number of features in the next home, because she wants to be able to put her furniture there.
Yeah, that's where you have to be. If you're going to have that, is like, that's a very big necessity.
Yeah.
That is going to pigeonhole you a little bit. And, the thing is too, is you have to think, well, if that's really important to you, you have to be willing to accept maybe a little less volume of space for walking around in your bedroom, or the space you're putting that furniture.
I straight walk into a house now, and I walk straight to the master suite, and I walk in there and I measure the room, and I go, nope. And I call her and I go, yeah, this isn't it. I don't look at anything else. Like that's our first hurdle we have to get through. So
right, and that's okay if that is your thing. You just have to be in bounded, or grounded reality of what that is. And then you have to think too, if it's big and bulky, how much are you really tied to that furniture? Because it's also going to cost money and a lot of effort to get it moved.
It's a lot of effort to move it.
And that's another thing. That's something that I've learned over the years. It's not, there's been some furniture that's been passed down. It's like, I can't part with it. And it's like, okay, well, that might be a little bit more worth it. And then there's others where it's like, you know what? I'm not really that attached to it. You think you are initially, until you go through the move and you're like, you know what? I could have totally done this differently. And 100%. So that's another thing to think about too, is
that's Cassandra and I's kitchen table.
Yeah.
My dad and I built it. Oh. We built the benches and everything for it. And it's got every scratch and dent from every kid and family member and friend that has ever sat at it. And, it was very sentimental to us. And that was the only thing we really had to move. But right before we went to move, our washer and dryer and our refrigerator all took a dump within the 6 months right before we moved. And I'm like, well, I guess that's coming with us.
Yeah.
I want to move a washer and dryer and our refrigerator's got a dent in it now, and things like that. Yeah. And I go, I should have I paid to move it. And I got here, and I bought it, and I paid to move it. I was like, could I have just not? And those are the things that almost killed us, trying to get them out of the trailer. So, things to think about when you're moving. Identify that discomfort. Make sure you've got a good agent working with you, and you got a good support system about where you're going, and help you unpack, no pun intended, what those wants and needs are. And really, it doesn't hurt to sit down and do a list. You might not be a list maker, but Kerri might be. Kerri might be able to sit down and.
I'm not a list maker, but
list.
I've learned.
Yeah,
I've learned the value of it, and it fits space.
You have to write it down sometimes. I encourage people, write it down. We have stuff on our website that you can download, and it's a wants and a needs list. And what are the wants and the needs that I need in this next home? And those wants and needs might change as you guys are discovering things.
And if you're a pictures orientated person and not a list person, another way to do it is to do circles and write what's really core in those inner circles, and then start writing what's more peripheral that you can kind of, and you can start seeing that'll help you visualize.
And do it in pencil.
Yeah.
Do it in pencil, because I guarantee you, as you look at homes and things like that, things are going to change.
Yes.
You may say that I need a 12 by 14 bedroom. And then all actuality, you're like, well, maybe I need a little bit bigger bedroom. Maybe it's not the bedroom that I need, but it's the closet space. Or just, hey, I really just need a place to put this dresser.
Yeah.
Like it'll develop as you go through it. And hey, I really want to fix her upper. And then next thing you know, we're looking at a complete home, because I go, yeah, I don't want to fix her upper. I'm glad you wrote it in pencil.
What's an interesting thing for me that I didn't know over the years that I've learned is very important to me? Windows and natural lighting.
Yeah.
Because it affects my mood so drastically.
100%.
And that, and that's just it, as I've learned. Okay, that's
why I can't live in Oregon or Washington. I'm I'm too tan. I need the vitamin D.
Right. Oh my gosh, I hear you on that. Yeah, beautiful areas. I love those areas.
Fun to visit.
It's
Don't want to live there.
You got to have your balance. You got to know what's going to successfully move you forward.
Yeah. Well, like I said, no pun intended. Kerri, thank you for helping me unpack this today. And if you need help unpacking, let me know. We'll refer you to somebody. But if you need help, talking through things and helping come up with your lists, feel free and reach out to us. You'll have our contact information, including Kerri's, in the description below. And we appreciate you guys subscribing and following us. And we look forward to talking to you guys again in the future. Kerri, thanks for being on today.
Thanks.
You guys have a great week.